Hi everybody. This week for Parent-Child Learning for Parshat Chayei Sarah, we'll be asking the big question of what does it mean to live a good life? And we'll be looking at it through the lens of the lives of Abraham and Sarah. In this week's Parsha, it starts out describing the years that Sarah lived. She lived 127 years, and we have this interesting comment of Rashi on that pasuk. There are two comments on that pasuk. One that's a little more well-known of the different significances of the pasuk listing that she lived 100 plus 20 plus 7 years and what each of those numbers mean. But the second Rashi on the pasuk talks about how each of those years was equally good. They were shavin batov. And that makes someone think, or makes the reader ask the question, how could Rashi make this claim? What does it mean that Sarah's years were all equally good? Right? We know from having read the previous parshiot that Sarah went through a lot in her life. Sarah went through difficulties like not being able to have a child, being taken captive in king's palaces, fearing for her life, going through famine with her husband, wandering from, of course, at the outset from where they're born and having to move countries to a place that they didn't know and reestablish themselves. All of those things seem pretty difficult, not to mention the war times they lived through, the war that we read about in last week's Parsha. So what does Rashi mean that Sarah lived all good years? And we have a similar description of Abraham's life, that Abraham was blessed with everything. That's what the pasuk says at the end of his life. Abraham was blessed with everything. And again, the question is really like, did blessing happen to him in every part of his life? What is the pasuk? What are these two psukim that describe Sarah's life, or Rashi's comment on the pasuk that describes Sarah's life as so good, completely good, equally good all the time, and Abraham having every blessing, when we know this isn't true, right? So what do we make of those psukim? How do we understand what the Torah means when it says that their lives were really, really good, even though we know the picture was more complicated? So we're going to offer through, as you go through the source sheet, you'll see there's an answer here that's given. These texts are from some teachings of Rabbi Jonathan Sachs, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, who just passed away. So you'll see some of these sources sketched out. There's a link to the article that this is originally based on, and we'll be doing some learning in his memory. But we're going to try and find some answers, and maybe you'll come up with your own answers as you go through these sources of what does it mean to live a good life. How could Rashi and how could the psukim make this claim that their lives were so good? And I look forward to having this conversation with you on Sunday. See you then.